Welcome to Web Cares, a dedicated health awareness initiative by the Women Entrepreneurship Platform, WEP. As you know, Niti Aayog's Women Entrepreneurship Platform, WEP, has been playing a vital role in supporting the journey of women entrepreneurs all over India. The Web Cares series aims to address yet another dimension, which is very important but often neglected by busy working women and women entrepreneurs who are trailblazing new paths: health and well-being. Web Cares offers a platform for open dialogue on physical health, mental well-being, and social support in partnership with Apollo Hospitals. We have carefully designed this program to address the practical realities that women entrepreneurs face, fostering health awareness, encouraging preventive health practices and well-being, and connecting them to valuable health resources. I'm Dr. Srinidhi Chidambaram, a consultant in public health and clinical quality and outcomes and health communications at Apollo Hospitals. And I'm delighted to present today's session, the Care Work Equation, Finding Sustainable Balance. There's been much attention and discussion about promoting women's health and well-being and helping women succeed as leaders in the workplace. But at the same time, we are seeing record levels of stress, worry, burnout for women, competing demands for their time at work and at home, and blurring those lines often forms the core of the problem. Working women are usually the default responders for any crisis at home, whether caring for young children, aging parents, extended family members, or individuals facing chronic or terminal illnesses. Duties at home, work pressures, delayed meals, no time for physical activity, hobbies, and little joys in life long forgotten. It is the health of the woman that takes a hit. And we are about to discuss the varying forms this can take in terms of physical and mental health issues. Women entrepreneurs particularly face even a greater challenge because of the lack of structured support, unpredictable work schedules, and they need practical real-life strategies to foster a healthier and more balanced approach to caregiving as well as their career. So in this session, we are going to figure all this out together. And I extend a very, very warm welcome to two eminent experts who are joining us today, Dr. Jasvinder Paintal and Ms. Bhavana Issar. Dr. Jasvinder is a renowned internal medicine specialist with over 26 years of comprehensive international and domestic experience in acute care, chronic disease and multi-organ disease management in tertiary care environments, with an MBBS from the MS Ramaiah Medical College, Bangalore, and a diplomate in internal medicine from the Massachusetts University, credited by the American Board of Internal Medicine. Dr. Jasvinder combines her extensive clinical knowledge with advanced diagnostics and delivers exceptional clinical outcomes, epitomizing evidence-based care. She practices at the Indraprastha Apollo Hospitals, New Delhi. Welcome, Dr. Jasvinder, to this program. I'm also extremely delighted to welcome Ms. Bhavana Issar, founder and CEO of the social venture Caregiver Saathi, which is a tech-enabled support system for family caregivers who provide long-term home-based care so that they have the peace of mind. She has consulted with the WHO and the Stanford University for care and caregiver-related topics. She also partners with organizations in shaping future-fit corporates that are resilient and innovative by anticipating changes in talent and consumers. Bhavana is also the Global Fellow of the prestigious international program Women Lived Health 2025 and was recently awarded the Distinguished Alumni Award by her alma mater, XLRI School of Business, Jamshedpur, where she's also a visiting faculty. Dr. Jasvinder, Bhavana, thank you so much for joining us here today. We also welcome all the people who have registered and joined this session. May I request you to mute your audio and video so that, we can have a smooth discussion. A lot of you have already shared your questions, and we will be taking up all of them as much as we can as time permits. We already look forward to our experts giving their opinions and inputs and valuable suggestions for you. So let's start. So let's begin by asking you, Dr. Jasvinder, this basic question of how women entrepreneurs can balance domestic responsibilities, especially related to childcare and elder care, with their professional ambitions and business. And Bhavana, please feel free to pitch in as well after Dr. Jasvinder.
So I think what would be important is, effective time management, of course. You every day as the day starts, you set out a goal for what you hope to achieve in that day, both at home and at your professional place of work, and set goals that that then it's easier to achieve them. It's easier to manage your time with them. Of course, if there is a sudden emergency, either at your place of work or at home, you have to cater to that as well. But I think what would be important is to set your goal for the day, create a team both at your place of work as well as at your home, where you can delegate certain responsibilities to them. That would be important. Also, to strike a balance, which may not be on a daily basis, but have some me time every day also, which is important, where you can de-stress yourself on a daily basis, or at least every few days. During that me time, you pursue a hobby. You de-stress by maybe doing some exercise or maybe yoga, or things like that. And also, it may be important also to see if there is any flexibility that you can work around your workplace, which would include things like remote working. There could be days that you can discuss with your place of work, and see if there are certain days that you can work out of home, which would then be an easier balance to create at work. Yeah.
Bhavana,
I think.
like to make some opening remarks.
Well, for starters, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you. Thank you for being here, making the time for yourself. Delighted to be here with Dr. Jasvinder and Dr. Srinidhi. And I have to start by saying I truly admire women who make time to be entrepreneurs. I think it is incredible that we have dreams and ambitions, and we wish to be entrepreneurs, because I think it is really a very difficult way to have a career. Being an entrepreneur can mean that people think it is something that can be done in your free time. It can be done on the side. So the first thing that I'd like to highlight is that as entrepreneurs, we need to be able to take pride in our ambitions and the fact that we are entrepreneurs, and that it is a career, and that it is as important as some of the other things. So for starters, identifying as ambitious entrepreneurs who want to balance a lot of responsibilities is a good starting point. And then to say, I cannot do this alone, just like I can't bring up a child alone, just like I can't, be a member of the society alone. I also can't be an entrepreneur alone. So enlisting and enrolling a large number of people in your dreams and ambition is the second thing that I would say. So I think, ensuring that the neighbors are supporting you, that the family members are supporting you, that your friends and colleagues and everybody is supporting you becomes a very important thing. And that can happen only if you share your dreams, if you enroll people. So I think that it's a very big part of being successful in any role, especially that as an entrepreneur, and especially for women entrepreneurs, it is really important to know that this is a very critical part of my life, This is a very critical part of who I am. And not only am I chasing my dreams, I'm supported by a large number of people who are chasing my dreams. So I'm going to take a pause right now because I think this is foundational, but looking forward to this conversation.
Absolutely. Let's talk a little bit about, little more about the time management that Dr. Jasvinder was mentioning. I know that a lot of us who work and definitely entrepreneurs need to plan their day, set time apart. But in reality, what happens is that, sometimes these boundaries get very blurred. So you might have planned that today is an important presentation and I'm going to be there meeting a new client. And that is the day when you will find that your child has developed a flu, or your somebody at home needs to go to the doctor, or something, some crisis happens. So that's when actually all the balls up in the air start, and then that start coming down, and there's a lot of stress and tension, and that's what we're going to talk about later. That's what really accumulates into health issues later on. So how do you really when these events happen, what is the boundary? Where do you start being a caregiver, and where do you stop being an employee, or vice versa? So how do we consciously and quickly switch roles? I know women are multitaskers and wear many hats, but that's easier said than done.
Is that directed to me? Yes. So I think, so I think switching roles, I think it's very difficult to draw boundaries, that this is, I'm going to do this as a primary caregiver or as a caregiver at home or at your place of work or anywhere. And this I'm going to do is my professional role or my entrepreneur role. Those boundaries really are very blurred most of the times. I think very seamlessly we move from one space to the other. And like you mentioned, Srinidhi, that you may have something planned for a day, you may have effectively managed a plan for the day, and then suddenly there is a crisis, and you don't know then how to handle that crisis. Now that is where, as Bhavana mentioned earlier, your team or your people who are supporting you in achieving your goals, as an entrepreneur or as at home, comes into play. So if supposing you have, for example, you have a very important meeting or a presentation at your place of work, and suddenly the example that you gave is your child at home has developed the flu, or has you've got a call from school that your child is sick and somebody needs to come and see him or pick him up or take him home. Now that is where your team comes into play, and your neighbor or your husband or your partner or your friend are going to help you in achieving that. So any success at place of work or as a caregiver cannot be a solo event. It has to be with the team. And I think as women, we need to understand that we cannot be heroes or heroines all the time. To be those heroes, we need a team of support. Now that support can be your parents, it is your friends, it is your colleagues, it's your partner. It's sometimes, if your children are old enough, then it's your children also. So I think to achieve that balance between work and between profession and personal, a team is very, very important. And I don't think we can highlight that enough. Yeah.
So Bhavna, I'd like to ask you this about now shifting to the, let's assume that this is an organization that a woman is part of. So why is it that in many workplaces, care work or the role of the caregiver is often seen as a kind of a soft issue rather than a strategic priority in retaining talent or understanding that this needs to be done? So what can organizations and employers do? Or even what can women entrepreneurs who run a large workforce do to actually ensure that this is a priority?
Thank you. Thank you for that. I'm going to build a little bit on what Dr. Jasvinder said about time management. I think we have to remember that time, is the most important resource that all of us have, right? It's one thing that's constantly running out. And how judiciously we manage our time among other resources is a key skill of being an entrepreneur. So we have to manage our time, we have to manage our money, we have to manage, people who work with us, partners, and so on and so forth, and optimize them. I mean, that's the job of an entrepreneur. How do we maximize and create wealth out of the resources that we have? So managing time is definitely a very important life skill. And it obviously becomes really complicated when we have caregiving responsibilities as well. Because like you just said, if the child falls ill, then, one of the parents, and most likely the mother, will have to step in, will be the primary caregiver. So coming to your point about workplaces, Srinidhi, we have to remember that workplaces have taken shape because of a historical context. There was a time when there were only factories, and factories were constructed in a certain way, and work was defined in a certain way. And mostly men who did not have these responsibilities went to work. Work was divided. There was dignity of labor of kinds, in the sense that women will do the nurturing, caring at home. Men will do the hunting, gathering, or later, working in factories. Because we have that legacy and history and tradition, work has over time been also defined like that. So what that means is workplaces have become, there are some things that have become embedded in workplaces, which means that some things are considered professional and some things are considered okay at the workplace and some things are considered not okay at the workplace, and so on. Which is why, to cut a long story short, performance, productivity, results, outcomes, etc., have become a big thing at the workplace. They are spoken about very nicely. But things like, oh, you need to, care, or you have children to take care of, or you have older adults to take care of, there is no place for that, because that's in your personal space. That's the history that we have. Also, we had mostly men at the workplace. We still have a larger majority of men at the workplace who are supported by partners who do this for them. And I used to always laugh during my corporate career. Even I need a wife, because being a wife is, it's a role. It's not a gendered thing. So workplaces do not know how to integrate people who have caregiving responsibilities because of historical reasons. As women and men who have caregiving responsibilities enter workplaces, we have to change workplaces. So we have to let people know that caregiving makes me good like this, and it also challenges me like this. Caregiving, and therefore, we are in the transition period. Men are now taking more caregiving responsibilities because we don't want to be in a gendered role setting, and women are coming out to work much more, and therefore they have to balance, and we are in transition as far as workplaces are concerned. We still don't clearly see how caregiving makes us excellent in all those things that I said: productivity, outcome, results, innovation, right? If we can make that connection, that, better results are going to be made because caregiving makes us, then it will become strategic. But I do think that caregivers are the best managers. Caregivers are also very innovative and extremely competent. And that's for another conversation.
Let's talk a little bit about the health challenges that entrepreneurs, women entrepreneurs, and generally career women may face. It's just that there can be different types of both physical and mental. So let's talk first about, I think what hits you first is the mental health challenges. So the stress, the anxiety, the panic. So these are the things that most of us encounter more frequently, and then we'll come to the long-term effects later. So what kind of effects? Also, sometimes people don't recognize it for where the anxiety is getting into a more chronic generalized anxiety, or where the momentary sadness and gloom becomes a full-time depression. So how do people really recognize these signs, and what can they really do? Because there's sometimes not much of a choice. You have to cope and you'll have to push on. So what are these challenges, both at work and when you're building a business as an entrepreneur or at home, and how do you overcome them?
Except for me.
Should I go?
Yeah,
I want to clarify.
Yeah, the mental health challenges that entrepreneurs and working women may face, and how to recognize them.
So I think recognize would be many times. I think if we self-introspect, we may be able to recognize these, because you may notice personality changes that you've had. Sometimes it may be your co-workers or your family members who may point out to you and say that, you weren't like this and you're just more irritable now. Or, there may be physical changes that may be there in a person may have, we may have lost weight. We may not be taking very good care of our, a physical appearance that much. These are all signs, and these are of, telling us that we're, getting stressed, or we're burnt, or we're reaching the point of burnout. And so those would be the ways to recognize them. And once we recognize them, then I think we need to take a step back and say that if these are the changes that have happened in us, how are we going to reverse them? Because that would be the next step, is how to reverse these changes that we have encountered in our personality, which may interfere even with our productivity. Both at work, your bosses may be complaining that your productivity is lacking now. It's something that may be happening at work, at home also. As a primary caregiver, you may be noticing that, okay, you forgot to fill the pill box for your parents, which is a responsibility that you had decided to take on. Or it may actually even be evident from how your child is behaving at home, or even at at their school. I mean, you may be getting complaints from the teacher that this is, your child wasn't like this, and this is how your child is behaving now. And maybe that sometimes is a reflection of the stress that you are feeling, and you are somehow, your child is recognizing that, or it's being transferred onto your child. So once you recognize, then I think you need to step back and say that, what are the stresses that we're encountering? Where are we feeling stressed? Is there just too much that we're expected to do at work? Or have I taken on too much responsibility at home, and I've decided that I want to take care of everything because, my partner or, the other, the rest of the team that is there at home is not doing it as effectively as, I would like it to be done. And so maybe I need to sit down and talk to them and, see that, this is where these are the things that are not going according to plan, and maybe let's work around it and let's see how we can improve that. The same thing is at work. You sit down with your immediate boss or your HR manager or whoever it is, and discuss with them that these are the limitations and these are the problems we're facing, and take suggestions from them. I'm sure you can get very effective and very good suggestions from them. We don't have to come up with solutions all on our own. We should be open to getting solutions and suggestions from everybody else, and moving on with that. The other thing which we often don't recognize is the role of nutrition. Nutrition is very, very important now. There is, in fact, a whole new science that is evolving, and it is known as nutrition psychiatry, so which talks about what are the nutrients which are very, very important for brain health, and when we have effective or healthy brain, obviously, we're going to be able to effectively manage stress much better, both physical stress and emotional stress much better. So nutrition has to be given a very, very important part. There are certain things, certain vitamins which are very, very important. And there are certain, micronutrients which are very, very important. Also, I think very important is this me time. This me time is very, very important, that we need to maybe allocate a certain amount of time every day, or maybe at least a few times in a week, to do things that give us happiness and give us joy and help us to de-stress and mentally and physically relax.
So we often now hear this term burnout, and we hear all these terms like, people use them like I'm depressed, I'm stressed, I'm burnt out. But we know that burnout is a real phenomenon. And so at what point, so what kind of help, apart from, of course, as you said, taking the me time, planning things, talking to people, confiding, taking support, taking suggestions, but when time comes to actually at what time should one actually seek medical help, and what kind of help is available for addressing these challenges, for example, at a hospital or at a clinic? What kind of medical support is offered for these kind of situations, and at what point should you actually take them?
If you don't mind, I'd like to take this question.
Okay.
I think it's like becoming an adult. And it's like any adult who has to take care of themselves. Being an adult means fending for yourself and actually taking care of a few other people who will be dependent on you. Taking care of yourself means not just building your ability to live in this world, therefore financial capability, to be healthy, not just in terms of physical health, but also to be healthy in terms of your social well-being, how you interact with the world, and so on. So being healthy has many dimensions. There is a physical health, there is a mental health, there's emotional health, there is social health, there is also financial health. So like my favorite Calvin in Calvin and Hobbes says, adulting is hard. Yes, when we are adults, adulting is hard because there are many things to balance. When should you take care of your health? Well, before anything else happens. So it has to be preventive, it has to be disciplined, it has to be before anything happens. So before you hit the possibility of a burnout. So you don't wait till you reach the end. And I'm going to link it to the previous point that Dr. Jasvinder was talking about, which is that it is really important to the nice thought slipped my head just now. Sorry about that. But it is really important to take preventive care, because we are often stereotyped that we will be able to manage many things seamlessly, multitask, and all of that. That is such a trap, I think, to believe that women are good at multitasking. Think about any machine. Think about computers. You need a very different kind of capacity if a computer has to be able to do multiple processing at the same time. It's also true for anything that if you shift, if you use motorcycles or cars as an example, if you're constantly going to be shifting gears, it is going to impact the engine quality. And the best way to maintain any machinery, including our body, which is by body and mind, is to not do too much multitasking. But if you're doing too much multitasking, build a lot of capacity and prevent burnout. So as adults, it is our responsibility to take care of all kinds of building your infrastructure, seeking help from friends, colleagues, support systems, nutrition, supplements. Know that growing into 30s is different from growing into 40s. And therefore, health changes every decade, have an exercise regime, so on and so forth, because prevention is better than cure. So
Absolutely. I think taking off from that point, I think we now need to ask Dr. Jasvinder to elaborate a little more on what Bhavana mentioned. So what women actually need to do, I mean, not just the entrepreneurs, but any woman, as they grow older, what can they do to prevent greater health risks later on? What are the consequences of not doing that? And how do you address, like, how do you kind of screen yourself? What kind of checks do you need to take in a limited time? So that is one aspect. The other thing that I would also like you to discuss is this whole concept of lifestyle management, which is really the basis of good health. So what would you suggest as a good, healthy lifestyle, daily routine consistently that somebody can manage when they are busy, like something simple, so something which everybody can do in terms of what kind of, because sometimes I think we also think in terms of an all or none. So either I go to a gym and spend 2 hours at 11 o'clock in the morning, which is never going to happen. Otherwise, we won't do anything at all. So this is a thing which I've seen with a lot of people. So what should you learn to be doing every single day to kind of build, as Bhavana said, build on your health, build on your strength, build on your resilience, immunity, fitness, so that you can just go and pursue your goals and, be a caregiver as well. And also what kind of screening and what kind of health warnings should people not take for granted?
So I'll discuss the health portion, the physical health portion first. Especially as we're entering into the 40s, there are a lot of physical and physiological changes that are going to take place in a woman's body. As we're entering into the 40s, we are approaching perimenopause, we're approaching menopause, and a lot of this is going to come with a lot of physical symptoms that we are going to be experiencing, which can lead to a lot of mental anguish also. There's going to be increased irritability. You're going to suddenly have a hot flush. It's happened many times. You could be in a meeting and suddenly this hot flush is coming upon you, and that distracts you from your meeting. It sometimes is very physically evident to the person who's sitting across from you also. So these are changes that are going to happen to us as we are coming into our 40s. So we have to have a very honest discussion with our primary care doctor, with our OBGYN, that how can we manage these symptoms. Okay, they can come up with very good effective suggestions for this. Besides this, I think from health point of view, we need to undergo very regular screenings, and specific screenings, not just doing your CBC and your liver functions and your kidney functions, but very women specific screenings as well, which means that we have to go for our, periodic mammograms, our periodic pap smears, getting in touch with our OBGYN on a very regular basis. As we lose the benefit of our hormones as we approach menopause, there are certain very specific diseases that we as women will encounter much earlier than our male counterparts, which would mean, your bone health, osteoporosis is something that we have to worry about. Also, cardiac health becomes a very important thing, because as we lose the benefit of our hormones, we become more prone to developing cardiac issues much earlier. So, check your blood pressures regularly. If you have family history of cardiac disease, then, check your lipid profile, check your blood sugars. These are things that you would like to check. Now, how can we, within the constraints of our workplace and our role as a primary caregiver, also focus on health? How, like you said, that you can't go to a gym at 11 o'clock in the morning. We don't always have the luxury to be able to do that. There are many innovations that you can do to exercise. Now if you look at social media, you come up with all this. This chair yoga. There is you put your laptop or anything on a higher pedestal, and you have a treadmill that you can put under your table, so you're walking while you're working on your. So there's a lot of innovation that is available out there right now, which we can then incorporate into our day-to-day life to get that bit of exercise that we think we need. This is about physical. Also, mental health or mental relaxation is also very, very important, which is where the role of having a hobby is very important, because a hobby, and I think perhaps certain kind of exercises which are, not something in the gym, but like yoga and meditation, these are very, very mentally relaxing as well. So I think pursuing a hobby and adopting a hobby would be very, very important also.
I also think,
Allow me, Dr. Srinidhi, I would like to build on what Dr. Jasvinder said. And I would like to highlight a comment that came in the chat, which is that women are tightrope walking, and mental health, Vinita has mentioned, mental health consequences add to the physical health challenges. And, how do we as women handle this? I think it is really, I'm going to emphasize on the point that we are taking on two jobs. The responsibility of caregiving has not been handed over to other members of the family, but we are now beginning to be working professionals as well. Caregiving is a full-time job, as much as doing any other full-time job is. I think we should learn to rebalance this, and we should remember that everybody is responsible for parenting and caring for the family unit as a whole. I remember I used to be very stressed out because of, the house is not clean enough. I don't have everything in the house, and I should be very good at my workplace. And I should also be very good as a hostess. And I should also be, like a super achiever at the workplace, and so on and so forth. All these are ways of creating undue stress on oneself. There is absolutely no reason why women of any age should take on everything. So first. Second, there is no reason to believe this myth that women are good multitaskers and can juggle lots of things there is no such thing. Every person is different. Some men can do it, some women can do it. It's fine. You have to recognize who you are and what you can do. So mental health means that if you really need to give time to your physical exhaustion and the fact that there is cognitive overload. I think even thinking every day कि आज खाने में क्या बनेगा is cognitive load. And आज, sabzi kharidni hai, so if only I have to do this month on month, it's too much to do. So there has to be a system in place. There has to be sharing of responsibility. And then you can do the multiple things. So that's one of the key points that I wanted to make about balancing and the tightrope walking that we have to do. I think it is important to let it down from time to time. And as Dr. Jasvinder said, hobbies are a great way to replenish our energies. We need to all have our downtime and hobbies, and unabashedly make time for ourselves and our needs.
also, I'm just going to add this point that many times we don't, I mean, there are these terms that we use, like, I'm so tired all the time, or, I'm very thirsty all the time. My mouth gets dried up all the time. So always remember that, many of these so-called, these kind of feelings and symptoms can also have very easily resolvable medical conditions. For example, the thyroid. So if you have an underactive thyroid, you are going to be feeling very tired, or if you're anemic, and all it takes is a simple blood test and a supplement. So I think, as Dr. Jasvinder said, I think that visit to the doctor and those basic tests year after year, I think really keep a record on what you feel. And I think we should never assume that, oh, like these are all not resolvable issues. Many of them have very simple solutions, or the answer could be in balancing out your nutrition, maybe eating more regularly. So maybe we could look at, so small solutions, and your doctor, your primary care provider, is the one who you should turn to. And if you don't have one, you should have one, so that you can discuss all these issues with him or her. That's what I wanted to just add there. You were
So
saying,
well said. There's another question or another comment over here, which is about healthcare. What can we do? I think I'd also like to remind that just like you said, we need to have a personal healthcare practitioner for ourselves who we consult and who helps us deal with this. We have to remember that most of the healthcare intelligence that we have today is inadequate research has been done on women. So we do have most of the understanding of human body anatomy is basis men. So there is just inadequate intelligence even in the healthcare system that we can get answers to all our problems. So we really need to speak up for ourselves individually and not fall for stereotypes. There is always a pushback saying, women, something like this, you women or something. Never let that daunt you, and be able to go back and say, I want answers for my particular body and my circumstances, and I'm going to take help from one or two specialists. Like Dr. Srinidhi just said, go and ask and say that my needs and my circumstances are different, and I'm going to get answers for me, because it's not necessary that, I'm getting them until I get them satisfactory.
I'd also like to add here that even at our place of work, I mean, when places of work have health policies or policies for a work environment, I think women, there should be a difference. There should be a gender difference in what are policies for men, because they may not necessarily be the same for women. In a month's period, women go through many changes. If you're premenstrual, there is a very different kind of a mental health that you're going through at that time. During your menstruation, there is a very different kind of issues that you're dealing with. You're maybe more irritable. Your work productivity is going to come down. So when we have policies at a place of work, they need to be gender defining. They cannot be the same for men and the same for women. They have to be different. And I think more and more, as more and more women are stepping out to work, more and more workplaces need to maybe sit down and change these and think about it and change these.
Bhavna, I'd like to ask you this question, which also came up from someone, that about the advice that not advice, I would put it like this, the family is also, just like you said, that the workplace started off being a factory, a very male-oriented place. Families also are rather entrenched in gender stereotypes. And while we do have instances where it is changing, much of the time it's either, even if the partner is willing, sometimes the elders at home, the in-laws, or the children, so what they're exposed to. So I think, if you were to actually tell our viewers how they can actually, I mean, we said that, we need the support of everyone at home, but how do you really have this conversation with them, and what should they be really thinking of when they kind of have this woman in their family who is embarking on a new business or starting up something? Many times a conversation may be needed. It might not just come so naturally after years and generations of entrenched beliefs and practices in a home. So even the people who work in a home might have this stereotype of, that this is what the woman should do and this is what the man should do. So how should the woman and how should the people in the family address this?
There's so much to unpack in this
Yeah.
because one thing we have to remember, one is that every home will be unique in that there will be similarities as well. So we do have cultural similarities because, we are all from South Asia, or we are all Indians, or we are all from, certain parts of the country. So there are similarities, and there is a certain patriarchal setup that we have, and therefore there will be similarities. But at the same time, each family will be unique and each unit will be different. So there will be a different play of who the people are and what they're doing. The first thing for any circumstance, in my view, is to clarify to yourself who you are, what kind of a person you want to be, what are your dreams. So if you want to be an entrepreneur, what does being an entrepreneur mean? An entrepreneur means that I will have a 24/7 job, and that this is what I'm trying to do, build a business, try to be successful in this circumstance, etc., etc. And then have a conversation with other people, which I call building your infrastructure. You cannot make a building stand if you don't have a good foundation. So as women, working women in general, but particularly entrepreneurs, we need to have a solid foundation and we need to have a solid infrastructure support. Some of it can be hired help, some of it is friends and family, sometimes it is even our children, and sometimes it is our neighbors. But who are your people? What is your support system? What is your infrastructure? That is really important. Now, a conversation with people who think differently from us can mean 2, 3 things. One is about sharing your needs and your expectations, but the second is also learning how to negotiate. So what this means is we have to learn and understand and be sensitive to the fact that people come from a different era and a different mindset. So they have seen a world in a certain way. They have seen life in a certain view. You are trying to change that. You're trying to be different. We have to create a negotiating table or a safe space where different ideas can be presented, differences of opinions can be taken into account, and still you can hold your ground and say, I understand what your concerns are, but here is what we will do, or here is a way that we can do a balance or a trade-off. I used to have a very dear friend of mine who came from a very traditional family and wanted to ride the motorcycle. She told me that she sat her mother-in-law down and said, I'm going to do what you asked me to do. But what I want in return is every Sunday I'm going to go for a motorcycle ride because that's what I really want to do. And the two of them agreed or arrived at a via media that, they could balance it. So it requires a conversation, it requires a negotiation, but it also requires extreme clarity of who you are and what you want.
I think I would also like you to tell us, okay, we are about 10 minutes away from completing 1 hour of this wonderful conversation, but I think we should also ask you about your Caregiver Saathi initiative, and you could tell us how our viewers might benefit from what you offer in your initiative, and how perhaps they could discuss these things much more or learn much more about the art of caregiving.
Thank you. We started Caregiver Saathi with a view to be able to support all individuals who are caregivers and who provide long-term care at home. The fundamental idea is that we are all caregivers, and as caregivers, we need to balance our career and our caregiving responsibilities. So the first thing to do is to accept that we are caregivers and that caregiving is a full-time job, and it requires skills and it requires a support system. So at Caregiver Saathi, if you go to the website, if you register on the website, what you can do is learn how to be a good caregiver. You have to remember that although it is the biggest part of our adult life, we don't learn it in school, we don't learn it in college, and we don't exercise or practice it in our workplaces. So caregiving is hidden, it is invisible, it is unrecognized. In India, we don't even have a term for a caregiver. So being a caregiver, we have to remember that it requires skills and it requires a support system. And Caregiver Saathi helps you understand what are the skills to build, not just for caring for yourself, because long-term care, like caring for children and older adults, can cause burnout. It requires skills that are hard skills, like doing a bunch of things, but it also requires a large number of soft skills. So learning how to be resilient, learning how to negotiate with others, learning how to pick up conversations at the workplace and in your home are all things that you can learn at Caregiver Saathi, but you can also contribute. So through our portal, you can tell your stories, you can share, you can join the support groups. And what you can do is access curated service providers who can help you in the caregiving journey. So what you can do is, see whether do I need not just an attendant. Caregiving is not just about an attendant. Caregiving could be buying the right equipment. Caregiving could be understanding who the service providers are. Caregiving could be what are the digital tools that I need in today's time and age, so that I can manage my skills as well as I can care for other people. And finally, most importantly, how can I get access to a coach? A caregiver coach is someone who can help you understand the pressures of a high-profile career, on entrepreneurship, and your caregiving responsibilities. We are not just caregivers when we give birth to children. Sometimes, then it just keeps changing shape. Children grow up, but then they are adolescents. Then they are older adults. There could be someone who falls ill. So caregiving continues through the full part of your life. There's so much to share, Srinidhi, but I take a pause and invite everybody to look at the infinite resources that we have on our website and contribute to the resources, ask us questions, so that we can, keep building it and provide support to all caregivers.
Before
I
yeah,
sorry,
yes, yes,
and one
please.
thing I really liked about what Bhavna mentioned before we started this whole session is that caregiving is, we're constantly caregiving. Everybody is constantly caregiving, and we should not define caregiving as only when we're taking care of a child or we're taking care of somebody who's physically or mentally challenged, or when we're taking care of older, parents or in-laws or older family members. Caregiving is, you're taking care of your pet. And what I like the most about what she said earlier is that we have to be caregivers, especially, which is very relevant in today's time, is we have to be caregivers to our environment. And I think that's very, very important. And that was something that was very, very nice that you said, and I really liked that.
Right. There's a question from Arhan. No, sorry, not Arhan. I think this.
Yes, I'll be happy to take that question because I just typed a response.
The time management techniques quickly.
Yes,
But I would definitely also like you to address this one last thing about choosing the professionals who might be your support system at home. Like, what kind of, so how do you really, a lot of people worry about that too, whether they have chosen, so how do you, what are your practical tips of evaluating somebody who's going to stay at home and maybe look after your child, or who's going to be like a kind of a home carer for your parent, or you're going to be away for a long time and you're leaving pets or children or anyone at all with someone else. So these days, I mean, that's another source of worry for many people as to. So we could discuss that and close the session, but before that, the time management techniques.
Okay. I think because I have a background in HR, I think it is a workforce HR problem. Just like you would hire somebody at your workplace, you will hire for certain skills, you will hire for certain knowledge, and you will hire for the right attitude. In your home, it's a little bit of the same. You will hire for certain skill level, you will hire for what knowledge the person has, but you will hire mostly for the attitude and the fact that the person is going to fit in with the culture of your home and be able to has the right attitude for the job. We have to remember that caregiving in a home has a large component of emotional labor. So whoever is doing that job at home has to have the ability to cope with the stress that work comes with. Now, the other thing that I would say is that everybody has a learning curve. Just like our employees at the workplace have a learning curve, we have to do an onboarding. We have to make sure that they're learning. We have to make sure that they have the right materials and equipment to do their job well. They are able to take feedback and you give them feedback. Everything applies to your helpers as well. Be a caregiver to your team members at the workplace and your staff at home. Make sure that you are listening to them. Make sure they are on your side. Care for them because they also need care. Caregivers also need care, and it's a cycle that goes. And my favorite thing is, for everything, I think we need both kindness and humor. So long as we can remember that everybody is doing their best and we have to be kind, and there can be a little humor. Yes, things will go wrong once in a while, so long as it is not life-threatening. If we can laugh it off, if we can be kind, if we can get better the next time, it's okay.
I think we are nearly at the end of our session. Any closing remarks or final comments, Dr. Jasvinder?
I think as a caregiver, I would also like to add that when we perceive ourselves as caregivers to, others, we should also remember that we have to be caregivers to ourselves as well. We have to take care of ourselves, and I don't think we should overlook that at all. And when we take care of ourselves, it is, our physical care. It means we have to take time out to make ourselves physically attractive also. So please, let's there's not enough that we can say about that. And mental health, of course, and physical health. And we should, like Bhavana said, that it's often thrust upon women that, oh, they can multitask and they're good at taking care of everything. And I think we need to understand and accept our limitations and not feel guilty about seeking help.
Absolutely, that's very well said. I have to thank both of you for joining this very, very interactive and insightful session. The web cares series will be back again with more and more topics that will help us build this robust ecosystem of support for women entrepreneurs. It's very important for success and well-being and empowerment of the web community. So see you again very soon with more and more such interactive and insightful sessions. Thank you. Namaste.